Part 6, Act 1 Nightmare, a new challenge awaits. Nightmare adds a new layer of difficulty. Monster difficulty has increased, resistances are reduced by 40, mercenary damage is reduced against bosses along with a few other things, so make sure you're prepared to take on the challenge. I start Nightmare at level 42. This level is ideal. I could also farm up Bale a bit more, but I felt it was time to move on. Remember, in Nightmare you're going to encounter a lot more champion and unique packs. In the Den of Evil, Corpse Fire drops me Dusk Deep. This is a great helm as it gives resistances and damage reduction. I make sure to give this to my mercenary. I find War Javelins, which could be a great start for when I respec to my Javazon. At level 43, I keep adding more points to Vitality for greater survivability, and Immolation Arrow for more damage. Bloodraven can still be a great pain in the bow. With increased health and oh so continual dodginess, this fight can be seriously annoying. Thankfully, we got her stuck in a corner and Immolation Arrow was finally able to do the job. Time to check out Mausoleum, and that is what a super chest should look like. Gem Shrines. If you are unfamiliar with them, this is how it works. They will upgrade a random gem in your inventory to the next tier. If you did not have any gems in your inventory, you will get a random chip gem, so make sure to use these wisely. I find an Eth War Scythe, which can be a potential upgrade for my mercenary. Eth items will do more damage and will never break a mercenary, so they are highly sought after. Now, this will only really be useful if I can actually create the desired number of sockets needed for the rune words I need. But first, I will need the necessary items to cube this. I find a circlet that gives 57 to life, which is really great, but I choose to keep resistances over it. I hang on to it just in case for a while, if I find resistances elsewhere and I can use the extra life. I find another gem shrine, which is going to be perfect to use for the flawless amethyst, as I will need a perfect to roll sockets in my war scythe. Back to Tristram. Remember that Nightmare adds more modifiers to mobs, so things hit a bit more. As always, be wary of cursed archer packs, and don't forget to give old Grizzy a kiss. Because Grizz is fire enchanted, he's resisting your hot lips, but nonetheless, he will succumb. After exploring majority of the map trying to find the waypoint, it was actually right next to the tower, which is a very convenient spot for when you want to farm up Countess. This is one problem that can happen with the Countess Tower. Mobs will sometimes spawn at the entrance. Thankfully, I didn't have too bad of a pack here, so it was easy to deal with. First Countess kill on players 8, and she gives me a Tal rune. And now, to farm up Countess for some runes. I do the same technique of spawning Countess as players 8 and dropping it back down to players 1 as to get more runes. And it works. Shale and Thul. The Thul was exactly what I was looking for, as I can cube 3 Thuls and get an Am rune. But first, I cube up 3 Orts to make a Thul, then 3 Thuls and a Chipped Topaz to make an Am. And now for the ultimate test of rolling sockets for our Eth War Scythe that we found. The cube recipe to socket weapons is Ral, Perfect Amethyst, and an Am. Keep in mind that the number of sockets will vary and depend on the max number of sockets an item can have and the eye level of that item. Jackpot, 2 sockets, which means we have a slightly better base for our strength. I run into a pretty crappy pack along the way to Countess and lose some serious health. As always, take caution with packs and never underestimate archers. Countess again, same technique, and we get some really interesting drops. Steel Clash is a really great shield to have when I respec the javelins. Also, the Sharkskin Belt is another really great score with faster recovery, life, and resistances. I find a really nice life amulet. I swap it out for my current one that gives me increased magic find for better survivability. Alternatively, you can save this magic find amulet to farm up areas as well. I encountered 2 pretty scary packs on my way to Countess. Be very careful against fire and lightning enchanted enemies, and always make sure to stay far enough away when a fire enchanted enemy dies. Level 50. All the vitality and exploding arrow for more immolation arrow damage. I also find my first Isle rune on my way to Countess. Dropping it back down to players 1 and the Countess drops some amazing things. Am rune, exactly what I'm looking for. I find a 24 lightning resistance ring, which is awesome, but I will be lacking some other attributes. My lightning resistance is low, but Act 1 doesn't have that many scary lightning packs, such as souls, so I hang on to it for later. Now to make an upgraded strength from a mercenary. Now the damage might not seem to be as much, but the attack speed of the War Scythe is faster, so it will actually do more overall damage as he'll be applying more hits per second. There are actually secret rooms in the jail which you may or may not have noticed. Look for the large square rooms on the map and go to the south side of the room and click on the bloody wall. It will open and provide some goodies inside, but make sure that you say Ancient Chinese Secret each time when you open it. It will guarantee good luck. Bone Ash dropped some rare heavy boots, and they are pretty awesome. Although my current boots do give a bit more, these boots aren't bad, and I would opt for them if I needed the fire resistance. Remember, if you're getting chased by possessed spiders, throw out your expendables so you don't get eaten. I tried to take a stab at some crafting, but haven't had much luck this time. This amulet was created with a perfect sapphire, any jewel, and a Thul rune. Remember that crafting is based on your character level and item level, so it's sometimes best to craft at higher levels. Nightmare and Dario. Bigger and burlier, Andy will still be very weak to fire. Now, I made some mistakes during this fight as I wasn't able to optimally take advantage of Immolation Arrow, but still got the job done by kiting. Before moving on to Act 2, I decided to do some Andy farming. Here, I finally nailed down the Immolation Andy strat by constantly keeping her in one place with a decoy, and it absolutely works wonders. Decoy is going to get one-shotted, but that's okay, it just keeps her there in the flames. On my way to farm Andy some more, I come across Saigon's belt. Now this is a really good belt with 20 to life and 20 fire resistance. This was something I could have swapped out for, but I decided to keep my faster hit recovery belt instead with the additional life. I find an okay small charm. It's not perfect, but it can help out a bit in the meantime with attack rating and damage, as well as not having to put an extra 2 points at the strength for equipment. This time Andy drops me Ice Blink, which is a really great early armor for my mercenary that has freeze target on it. I found a pair of dual leech gloves, which is really awesome, and I was torn to use them over the other pair of gloves I had. Currently I'm using chance guards to Magifine, and I don't see a reason to switch them until I start having some problems with this build. I decided to hang on to them and think about it if I actually really need them or not, over Blood Fists. I make a stop at Mausoleum and wasn't disappointed. Nokuzan Relic, a pretty awesome amulet for fire resistance. I was a bit hesitant as I would be losing 50 life, but the fire resistance would be overall better. I decided to kill Bloodraven for shits and giggles, and a zombie dropped a white ceremonial javelin. This could be awesome to use for an imbue. I decide to use my imbue in normal. Now it's usually best to save your imbues when you're a higher level and have higher types of gear, as you can only do this once per difficulty. Thankfully, I was not disappointed in this roll. 2 to javelin skills, 30 increase attack speed, and prevent monster heal. I can't wait to check out the Javazon soon. I started getting bored farming up Andy and felt it's time to move on. And now, it's time to respec into our Charge Strike Lightning Fury Amazon. First things first, stat points. Start putting in as many points as necessary to use your equipment in strength and dexterity. You usually don't want to go over or give too little, as it is not necessary. I put 60 into strength and just enough to use my equipment at 109 for dexterity. The rest goes into vitality at 181. As always, nothing into energy. Now for skill points. We want to first max out Charge Strike and Lightning Fury, so only put 1 point into any of the prerequisite skills. I switched the skills so that I can see the damage increase as I put more points into them, and it's starting to get really juicy. After I max out Charge Strike, I go back to my passive skills and put at least 1 point into everything. Also, bring Critical Strike up to 5. And now for the rest of the points into Lightning Fury. Now Charge Bolt at level 22 does 1 to 1022 damage and releases 7 bolts at once. Potentially, on good RNG, that can be 7000 damage per stab. Now, let's test our new skills out on Andy, and it seems pretty damn good. From this run, I get Mahim Oak Curio, which isn't too bad, but I keep Nokuzan over it for resistances. Andy also drops me some really disappointing gloves. I just respect into a Javazon. Thanks, Andy. Here, I decide to get rid of my dual leech gloves, as they won't be very effective with my low base damage. I had a 24 lightning resistance ring saved up from before, and I decided to swap it out with another ring I had for additional resistances now. I stopped to go farm Bone Ash and find really cool belt, 24 faster recovery, life, and fire resistance. My current belt is slightly better with life, and this belt has a lot more fire resistance. I also find a Grand Charm that gives life and lightning resistance, although not particularly great, it maxes out my lightning resistance at the moment. Here, I get a really nice Countess, as I'm looking for these runes to craft with. I go to Geed to gamble a particular belt. I am looking for a regular belt so that I can craft a blood belt. Remember that I still keep my edge bowed for reduced vendor prices, which makes gambling a little bit cheaper. I'm rather picky and I don't want to settle for just a regular belt, so I aim for a mesh belt. Getting a regular belt will limit the amount of slots your belt can hold potions for. After a bit of gambling, I finally find a mesh belt. And with any jewel, a perfect ruby, and a towel, I can create a blood belt. And it's glorious. It has some really decent stats and the best possible resistances I can hope for. GG. Now, let's try and craft another item, blood boots. My current boots are pretty decent, but I want to try and get something even better. Remember that it is a gamble when crafting, and you may not always get what you're looking for. So I gamble some light-plated boots, and with Eth, Perfect Ruby, and any jewel, I create yet another pair of GG boots. 40 lightning resistance on boots is amazing, along with 19 fire resistance, magic find, and life. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any faster run walk, but that's alright. I was so happy when I got these boots crafted. I decided to cube up 3 hulls and a chipped diamond to make a third Io rune. But now I want to cube up my Ios, so I need to find a flawed topaz. In the Mausoleum, a flawed topaz drops. Perfect. I go back to town and cube my Io runes to create my Lum rune. This will be a great for rune word smoke. Enjoyed the video? Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more videos. Playing along? Post a comment below of your findings so far. Or you can watch live at twitch.tv/alarashade.